Hello, friends. Welcome to Real Law State with Patti and Kate. Woo, woo. Hey, I want to tell you something. I'm sitting on a stool. So I am for once as tall as Patti. And it feels pretty nice being tall.
Wow.
I always say it's okay being short, but you know what? This feels pretty good. I'm like
She's got me on a lump of pillows. I feel like the princess in the pea.
This is the last time on this because I have another stool at home. So we're both going to be on stools so you can see the boat behind us.
Trying to make it better, people.
Yeah, you don't even know what goes on behind the scenes.
No, you don't.
So anyways, thank you guys so much for your questions. Once a month, we want to do a Q&A because one of the things that I know is most important for us is that we interact and we communicate and that we don't just keep making up stuff. You tell us what you really want to know the answers to.
Yeah.
Right. So once a month, we're going to do a Q&A. And sometimes it may be us asking you questions. And as a matter of fact, we have one of those today. So actually, let's start with that. What question did you ask them, Patti?
Well, I had put on Instagram when I saw your post. I was trying to get the questions started there.
Yeah.
Because I get this question quite a bit, is if you have a co-borrower, does the co-borrower have to go on the deed? Does their name have to be on the deed?
Right. So what that would be, guys, is if first-time home buyers and they don't qualify on their own and their parents have to sign for them or something like that?
Yep, exactly. And the answer is no. So they don't have to be on the deed. They can just be on the note, so they're obligated. A lot of times that co-borrower wants to be on the deed because if they're going to be part of the liability, they want to be part of the asset, which makes sense, but not every time. And actually, I had one a little over a year ago. I thought was kind of cool. So mom and son decided they were going to buy, or she wanted to help him buy his first property. So what did they do? They found a multi-family. So they found a multi-family. Yep. She co-signed for him, and there was 3 units.
Yeah.
And so her name did go on the deed.
Yeah.
He obviously lives in one. She does not live in the property, so there are 2 other units. And then they decided to split the rent. So one of those apartments, the rent goes to him to offset his mortgage, and then the third one goes to her, and she uses that some extra income.
Nice.
So kind of cool, right?
That is cool. And the other part of that is the flip-flop is also that if you have 2 people on the note, they don't both have to be on the deed.
Yes, so the opposite exactly. That if one person, sometimes you have more of the breadwinner, and the other one doesn't have a job or maybe some bad credit, they just, overcoming some things. One person can be on the note and 2 people can be on the deed. So the person who's not on the note, not, putting their credit through scrutiny with the mortgage company, would still have to sign the mortgage, because what the mortgage is a lien against the property with the authority to foreclose. So that the co-owner has to assent to that lien and that foreclosure power being on their property.
So out of curiosity, if let's just say that those co-borrowers, so those co-owners like split up, and the person who was on the deed but not on the mortgage split, what would happen to that person's credit and liability if
the person's on the deed and not on the mortgage?
Right.
Nothing happens to their credit because their credit's not being dinged at all because they were never on the note. The mortgage has got nothing to do with the underlying note. Their social security number isn't in the system. Okay. This is clearly just an assent to the lien on the property. But the opposite, of course, if you're the note holder and you move out, you better figure something out.
Yeah. Well, that was, I have had a situation like this, and I was, let's just say that I was accurate in what I thought was going to happen. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
But when you were telling me that story about the multis, I thought that was going to be a perfect segue into our condo question.
Yeah, well, there's another.
So one of the questions that we got from y'all was about how do you take a multi-unit and make it into condos, right? So I have a client who was looking to take a multi, and they're like, you know what, I think I want to condoize this.
Yep.
And they were led to believe, I guess I would say, that it was a really complicated process and that only certain special people could do it, kind of thing.
No.
And I'm like, that doesn't sound right to me. But of course, I don't know anything. So I'm like, Patti, what's the truth here? So what is the truth here?
So the truth is that converting to a condo is not a zoning issue. That is the biggest misconception. So I personally did a condo conversion in Mattapoisett.
Yes.
And everybody was asking me, how'd you do that? You didn't ask for permission in the zoning boards, et cetera, et cetera. I didn't need to ask their permission. It's an ownership issue. It's not a zoning issue. So that's the biggest misconception.
Okay, so basically, if it is in fact a multifamily,
Yep.
and if they're all owned by the same person, which they naturally would
Yep.
be, then it has the ability to be condoized.
Yes, there are a couple of towns up towards Boston area that they've created some bylaws. Any town can create some bylaws regarding condo conversion, so you want to be aware of that. Most of them in Mass do not.
Okay.
Up towards Boston, where you have real like housing crises,
Yeah.
they have created some additional layers for condo conversion because so many were creating condos and it was reducing down the amount of available apartments. So,
Right. Yeah.
but what it entails is you have to survey the property. So you do have to get a survey.
So survey.
Yep. Because you want to make sure you know what part of the property the owner is going to own and what is common area that all owners are going to own.
That's right.
And then you do a master deed.
Okay.
That submits it to the statutes of Mass, which creates the condo. And then there's a trust that's created that manages the condo. So that's where you create your condo fees and things
Right.
like that and create the ownership parameters, I guess is what you want to say.
And so now would that person essentially then have two deeds? Like one for their unit and one for their common area?
So what happens? No. So when I create a condo, the property's in my name. I'm now creating a master deed, so I create the condo. So let's just say it's a 3-family because we were talking about 3-family before.
Yeah.
So now, essentially, I owned one building with 3 units. Now
Yeah.
I own 3 units in one building. It's
Okay.
still in my name. And then but then you create this condo trust. And now
Okay.
when I convey my first unit out to you, because you're going to buy it for $1 million.
Yes, I am.
So I'm going to convey it to
And I'm
you.
going to think it's a deal.
Yeah, what a deal. So I'm conveying to you, say, unit 1 with a 33% interest in the common areas because you own 1/3 of the building.
Okay.
Does that
All
make
right.
sense?
It does. There's a test question on the exam that
Yeah.
has to do with this. And I was just trying to get to the bottom of it where it said that there was like a joint tenancy and a tenancy in common or whatever. And the joint tenancy, from what I thought they were asking in the question,
Yeah.
had to do with the common areas that was owned. But that wouldn't be joint tenancy anyways.
No, it wouldn't at all. Because
So-
that's part of your ownership is I own my unit and I own 1/3 of the common areas
Okay.
in that particular example. And then obviously it gets very different when you have larger condos. You might
Right.
only own 2.67% of the common area.
Right. And that's something I wanted to know. You guys didn't ask that question, but you did ask about going from multis to condos.
Yeah.
And this is just kind of a tip for you. You know, if we are in fact, which they are promising, that the rail is coming to New Bedford and Taunton and Rainham, not Rainham, and Brockton, right? Then the housing market's going to change. And if you have a multi, this might be something that you want to start to set in motion, because this could be something that would be it feels to me like a very advantageous scenario.
It could be. I mean, you definitely, with everyone, you have to assess it. There are certain rules if you have current tenants and then you're going to convert.
Right.
If you have 4 units or more. I'm not going to get into that because it gets very complicated.
The weeds. Yes.
Yeah.
Take my class, you'll find out.
You'll get into the
Go to
weeds.
enterprising.com.
Yeah. But not every multifamily should be a condo. You need to know your market, right? You
Right.
need to have a good realtor who can say, if you converted this to a condo, the likelihood of you selling this is X,
Right.
and what I think you could sell it for is Y. And if that makes sense to you financially,
If that's
then
attractive
go
to them.
for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't, you have to be able to analyze that.
Right.
With
Yes.
no emotion.
And there's no automatic.
No.
There's no automatic. So again, that's the value of a realtor professional.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
One of the things that we always talk about is, what is the value of a real estate professional, and what is the value of a combination of real estate and law?
Yeah.
And this is a phenomenal example of that.
And I
Yeah.
have one that I'm doing right now, and I have another client who came in my office talking about it.
Yeah.
And the first thing I asked him is, did you talk to your local realtors? Like, who have you spoken to make
Yeah.
sure that the target market you're trying to hit,
Right.
hit a 650. Well, what's the likelihood of you getting a 650 if you have 1,200 square feet in
Right.
this,
Right. That would not be-
and then your water views or not water views, there's so many things to think about, that you can't just willy-nilly just hope it into place. So you have to have some education behind you, and that's where the real estate agent comes in.
Right. And not for nothing, but this is a volatile market right now. So while we are enjoying some of the busyness of it, you really want to know what's going on, or get some good analysis about the future.
Yeah. And it almost comes into investing too.
Yeah.
And this is a little sideways, and I didn't tell Kate I wanted to talk about this, but just really quick, before I came here, I happened to see a link that somebody I know had shared, and it was to this gentleman in Fall River who's an investor, giving advice about investing in real estate.
Oh my God.
It was a lot of gibberish, and it really wasn't the details. And it's these details that can sink you or you can swim.
Yeah.
And it comes down to numbers. It's not just philosophy.
Right.
You really have to educate yourself on this. Don't just somebody, flapping their gums, being loud and being cute, and you think they know what they're talking about. It's not necessarily true, people. Do your homework. So that's my little
that is good. And we could be part of your homework. Just so
absolutely.
We talk about this stuff all the time. Yeah,
all the time. We love it.
And what was it? Was there one more question?
Well, there was one question that came up for you, which I think is definitely your wheelhouse, not my wheelhouse, is especially this past summer and stuff, there were quite a few houses that had multiple offers that come in, and people get a little nervous, they're like, how do you angle for more? And what truly makes a good offer? How do you decide the best offer when you have multiples?
That's a really good question. And, I have to say that back to when you were saying about how there's no template for this. Yeah. Right. What I always recommend to both the agents for letting people know, and also for my clients, is who's going to get you to home and the time that you want to get there. Right. Because a lot of times the numbers are similar. Right. So again, because you've gone into a multi-office situation, and then you've got similar numbers. Some may be cash. Yeah. Right. And then that sometimes people are like, oh, I've got cash, it's a home run. Yeah. Right. Now, if your house is mortgageable, right, and the person, what they're doing for financing makes sense, it really is. And the way that pre-quals and are now is that it doesn't necessarily have to be that, because most of the time when somebody comes in with cash, they're like, I have cash is king, I'm going to lowball. Yeah. Right. So a person who's financing, their number might be higher. Yeah. Right. So that's one thing is who's going to get you to the end. Right. The other part is skin in the game. You know what that deposit is. So here's the thing is that, a lot of times, again, people will put just down a little bit of money, but with a great big end thing, right? Well, what they're doing is they're shopping you out too, right? So back to the investor who has cash, and they put down like $2,000. Well, to them, they'll walk away from that all day long. Right. So they have this until whenever. And if that they don't have skin in the game, then that increases your risk, right? So so you want that. I just had somebody ask, interestingly today, who the closing attorney is going to be. And I was like, why would that matter, in my brain? Yeah. But what it has to do with is the security. It's like this. If some of those offers went in by people who are buying up the city, for example, and I don't know this, but I'm just trying to figure out why this was important. It was like, who's going to get me there? Yeah. And who's going to make it easy for me? Right. So that would be another thing. Who's going to get it done? Who's going to get it done in the time that I want it to get done? Right. And it doesn't matter so much anymore, the cash versus financing, unless it's a house that they say FHA financing, and then they have like peeling paint and all that kind of stuff. Now, this is why a lot of first-time home buyers get kicked to the curb, and they're like, why am I getting kicked to the curb? Then they see that the house sold for like $5,000 less than they offered, but they had FHA financing where the house has to be in a certain kind of condition. Right. Right. So people don't want to fix their houses most of the time in a situation like this. Yeah. So deposit, who's going to get you there, the amount that you're going to net, which of course is interesting. And also this is just something that I think this should be intuitive, but it's not, is like, how much bullshit does that buyer want me to do? Yeah. Like I got an offer, and again, that where there was like 10 pages of conditions that this person had to do. Yeah. And then there was, red flag. Well, so it's $5,000 more than the next offer.
Yeah.
Right. And the next offer was, oh, we love this house. We can't wait to own it. Like we have, like, there was nothing like that. There was no bullshit.
Yeah.
Right. So, and, you know, and in all fairness, I alerted that other agent and I said, you're making it really hard for them.
Yes.
Like you're making them jump through hurdles.
Yep.
Right. And these people, like, they were selling their house because they needed simplicity in their life.
Right.
Right. So you as a real estate agent, you know, if you have these like fancy, and I'm sorry, can I use a bad word?
Oh,
a
please.
little bit.
I love it.
Ball busting. Like if you are ball busting,
Yeah.
then you know what? Your likelihood, even if you have more money, is going to go down.
Right.
You know, and you as a buyer's agent may say, well, I'm just protecting my person. I'm like, you're overprotecting them.
Yeah.
And you're making it hard for them to want your offer. Like that's,
And are you really protecting them, or are you just trying to
look like you're
bust some
smart,
balls?
you know,
and
but,
then I'm such a go-getter and a bulldog, and
I'm gonna like, and so you have to balance those things, you know, and so those would be the things. I don't know if that helps.
No.
So those are the items that are consideration for that buyer. What that seller is looking for is, what's the easiest, most pleasant way that I can get the most amount of money from point A to point B.
Yeah.
I will take a little less money. I will take a couple more weeks if somebody makes it smooth sailing.
Yes.
You know?
Agreed.
So anyway, so that's what goes into it. But again, a lot of times people get very upset if their number was higher, but they had a low deposit down and they had a bunch of conditions in there. FHA financing on a house, that's questionable. You know, and it's so sad because it's like, we try to do our best to make it a winning proposition for everyone.
Right.
You know, I always say that residential real estate is not win-lose. It has to be win-win. Like, and it has to be where both sides don't get everything they want, right? But they both leave feeling good about it.
Feel good about the
you know,
transaction.
this is not like Shark Tank or something. I don't. So I know Shark Tank's not a good example either, but it's not like somebody.
The water.
It's not. Yeah, it's not like someone wins and like totally steals from someone.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not like someone like, you know, it's just not that way. It's not that temperature. We're talking about emotional human beings.
Right.
You know.
And I just want to touch on a little bit on, because I see this a lot on my end of it when the transaction comes to my office, is those situations where, like you were talking about the many conditions or the many lists, the sellers just feel like, what else do you want from me? Like, and then they just get frustrated. They throw up their hands and they say, forget it. Yeah. And so if you're really interested in the property, certainly, you know, if it needs a new electrical system, well, you got to consider that in your offer price anyways.
Right.
But you know, some of the small stuff, you got to let go. There are no perfect houses unless it's brand new, and that comes with a warranty.
But it's even like, you know, it's even like, for example, I had a situation recently, and it's totally reasonable. There was a wire fraud disclosure, like where the buyer's company has this policy now that they do this thing about wire fraud. So that freaked out my sellers. I mean, my buyers. They're like, "What does this mean?" They're like, you know, it's like, what is this? Like, and then of course we have to open the can of well, sometimes there's this wire fraud thing, and it was just something that to me, I understand the protection, but it's, again, strategically, where do you put it into the whole puzzle, you know?
Yeah, and it doesn't probably need to be in the beginning.
No, and not when you're making decisions, Yes. Right? So if you want to have a winning, like if you are a buyer's agent and you are in a competitive market, you know, one of the things you want to do is you want to take that whole picture on how you can make that seller's life as easy, like as positive as possible. Yeah. And also, you know, as strong as possible. Like, you know, if you know it's going to be multiple offer, like, don't, like, throw it out there. Yep. You know, I had a buyer who went through about 4 houses where they would have gone up higher. Yeah. But they never even got the chance because the person's like this person's busted my chops. You know, my person, right? My person was doing the busting, right? Yeah. So, you know, so we have to remember, like, that's not the temperature that we have right now.
Right, right. And I think, and just on that note, you have to know what market you're in. If you're in a seller's market or a buyer's market or in a transitioning market, it's very tricky. Again, you need a really good realtor to tell you that. And because,
and then you need to listen to your realtor.
And you need to
come on, you know. So it's you know, I don't know. It's hard out there, and this is one of the most stressful things. transactions, like life events that's going to happen with our people.
It can be very exciting though too, and it should be exciting.
Well,
like,
it should be wonderful. It should be wonderful.
Yeah.
I just said that we picked up a seller who had a bad experience with another company, and I said, our goal is to make this wonderful for you.
Yeah.
Like when you are done, you're gonna miss us. Like, and so that's the kind of relationship you want to have with people.
Absolutely.
And it's, and honestly, you have to do the same stuff anyways. Like, it's like, so why not make it wonderful and delightful and stress-free as much as possible?
Yeah, exactly.
That's a really good question. I'm glad you asked that.
Love it.
I thought there were some good questions. Thank you guys for those questions that you asked us, and be thinking about them. Now, listen, you can always reach out to us and say, hey, I have a question. Can you guys touch on this? And we're always looking for topics, and actually, to be honest with you, there was one question that was so good, we're saving it for a topic.
Yeah.
So thank you, person.
Yeah.
You're like, why didn't she answer our question? Why didn't they answer my question? It's because we're saving it for either next week or the week after, because it was such a good question.
And just to give it a little tidbit. So it's a little bit about probate. So you inherit, and how do you get your name on the deed? Where does the title of the probate go?
Right. And
how do you sell? Or maybe you don't want to. I don't know.
Yeah. So it has to do with that estate sale and that legacy sale. And, and so they're just, they're a reality. And so it takes some special people to work on it with you. And that's us.
That's us.
Just saying. All right. Anything else for them?
No, I think that's it. And I think, I can give a little preview to next week. I didn't actually tell Kate this because we thought we were going to get her on this week and it didn't work out. But Lee Green of Keith and Sons Insurance is going to join us next week to talk about insurance. So when you're trying to insure your home, you need some homeowners insurance, especially when you're a first-time home buyer. What are you looking for?
Absolutely. And you know what? Our vendor friends out there, right? We've had, if you've seen, we've had multiple mortgage people talk with you, multiple insurance people. Like, if you are in any of those things that you want to be on our show, let us know.
Yeah.
We are we're all about abundance, and we're all about everybody building each other up. Like, this is our community.
It's so vast, and there's just so many components.
And this is our hood. Like, this is
we're in the hood.
Yeah, we're in the hood, but this is our business and this is our community. And, ultimately we're trying to serve our clients, right?
Yeah.
The buyers and the sellers and the investors and the people who just inherited a house and all of those people. And there might be something that someone says that resonates with you. So that's super exciting. I can't wait to talk with you.
You're going to love her. She's so funny. She's a little camera shy, but
we can work on that. Listen.
If you saw Megaroni dancing to music,
right? Right, Mega? Oh my gosh, that was hilarious. I think Lee's on. Hey, Lee, yes, she is.
See?
Hi, Lee. Lee, listen, don't worry about it, because listen, we'll give you the stool, so you'll be the tall one.
And our peeps need to hear from you. They need to hear about it. And then there's also another guy who's going to talk to us sometime in the future about solar. So yes, I think it'd be good to hear that from the horse's mouth.
Yes. So get your questions ready.
Yes,
because that one that one is never ending on the questions.
Yeah.
And it's because it's emerging.
It is.
Right? So anyway, friends, thank you so much for joining us. We really look forward to these times with you. And if you could share this out to your clients and to your people, right? So that they can get some knowledge also. And hook them into us, man. Because you know what? We're awesome.
We are awesome.
All right. So thank you guys so much for joining ReaLAWstate with Patti and Kate. Woo.
Oh, we're doing it at the end now too?
Okay, no, wait a minute. Go ahead, say your thing.
I think be bold, get it sold.
I think you need to change your thing to what matches our bus.
What's our bus? Oh, buy our list with us and use our bold bus.
Yeah.
You like that?
I do.